What's going on, guys? I'm Fuller from Custom Offsets TV on the YouTube, and today we're gonna do a little edumacation on a company called Teraflex. Now, don't just leave if you're one of the truck guys who already knows that Teraflex only does Jeep stuff, because guess what? You're wrong. The Teraflex roots date all the way back to the 1950s when the CEO was working with his dad at MEPCO, which stands for Military Equipment Parts Company. Their guys were a distributor of military surplus Jeep parts and accessories in the 1950s, and then Don sold the company to Mark in 1986, and 10 years later, Teraflex entered the modern Jeep market with the first ever aftermarket suspension system for the Wrangler TJ. Teraflex has remained a family-run business for many years, and just recently Mark actually appointed his son Ben to be the president. For the most part, Teraflex offers practical kits for just about any modern Jeep out there, ranging from 2.5 inches all the way up to 6 inches. They also have a ton of other parts and accessories for the older stuff too, but what they're really known for now is the lift kits for the JK, JL, and JT platforms. One of our guys on the customer service team, Jeff, if you've ever talked to him, he runs the 2.5 inch kit on his JL with the Falcon 2.1 shocks, and for as much as Jeeps seem to get hate whenever I bring them up on this channel, it's still impressive that on a 2.5 inch kit you can fit 35s. And speaking of Falcon Shocks, that kind of brings up my next point that you regular truck guys might actually care about. Correctly paired shocks are critical to a properly functioning suspension system, which is why Teraflex decided to start manufacturing their own shocks under the Falcon name, and they actually make their shocks right here in America, so that's pretty neat. Falcon has expanded their lineup to cater to more than just the Jeep guys and make not only really good performing, but also really good looking shocks, primarily for leveled applications, but they do offer some limited options for the 4 to 6 inch lifted trucks as well. So the people that run these shocks have absolutely nothing but good things to say about the ride quality, and I think part of that comes from the ability to adjust them to your liking. Now, not every shock they sell is adjustable, but for nearly every truck application, they have not only adjustable ride height configurations, but you can also dial in how firm or how soft you want your ride to be with 3 different settings. Plus, in that middle setting, you'll find 8 micro adjustments. This way, if you do any sort of towing, it's super easy to go out to your rear shocks and then firm them up. But when you're done hauling the boat for the weekend, you can just make it softer and have a more enjoyable commute to work during the week. Right now, Falcon is offering these specifically valved and engineered shocks for the new Ranger, 17 and up Super Duties, 15 and up F-150s, 2005 and up Tacomas, 2010 and up 4Runners, 07 and up Tundras, as well as Rams from 09 and up, including the 2019 and newer 5th gens, plus the 14 to 18 Silverado. Now, Falcon isn't perfect, of course, and when you start looking at these shock options, I'm sure you'll find plenty to be impressed by, but don't forget these are shock packages, not necessarily lift kits. Or in the case of the 4 to 6 inch lifted shocks, it kind of goes without saying, but you need a 4 to 6 inch lift kit already installed. But this is a great way to take a basic spacer kit, something a little more affordable, and then improve the ride quality significantly. It won't change your angles or anything like that, but shocks do play a huge role in how your vehicle handles and how it rides down the road. Including just what's necessary is actually part of Falcon's philosophy. They say, unlike other companies that just build replacement shocks with revised valving, they engineer complete shock absorber systems that improve the overall performance of your vehicle while retaining many of the factory suspension pieces. Basically, this ensures that you only pay for what's required and nothing more. In their truck and SUV lineup, an internal negative rate spring inside the shock offsets your spring's preload while in the extension zone of the shock. This eliminates that top-out clunk that you might sometimes hear and also reduces shock stress at full extension, while softening tire landing and also reducing body roll on impact during the times you might be driving aggressively. The factory spring rate is unaffected actually in the regular driving zone of the shock for a comfortable and controlled ride. On top of that, the microcellular foam bump stop reduces the spring rate when the shock is in that compression zone to reduce bottoming out. Like some of the other shock manufacturers, they also offer piggyback shocks, which basically means you have an extra chamber which increases the gas and oil capacity of that shock so it can handle the heat created from cycling that shock better. They, however, are not the same as remote reservoir shocks because that extra chamber is actually still physically attached to the shock body. So this eliminates the need for leaky hoses and banjo bolts, and it just ensures the longevity of the shock and reduces the chance for failure. What surprised me the most with Falcon was how long they take to develop these shocks. Initial tuning begins by driving each vehicle on and off road for 2 days to set a baseline. Then they daily drive each vehicle for 4 weeks to look for holes in the performance. And after taking all their notes, they adjust the tuning and test drive for 2 more days until it's dialed in, and then they evaluate the revised tune for 4 more weeks. So this means that each shock absorber system requires anywhere from 2 to 6 months of testing and tuning before meeting the performance targets they set forward. Basically what it boils down to is that this is something that when you install it, you can actually tell a difference. Because I know there's nothing more disappointing than installing a product you spent a bunch of money on and then not feeling any real change. So if you're a Jeep guy or a truck guy, Teraflex and Falcon probably have something you're after, and we'll put the links to all their stuff in the description down below if you want to check it out further. But that's all I got for you. Peace.